The trappings of success on this episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Before we get into it, a word from our sponsors. Trappe Connect. Two words ring true for all of us in the automotive space: the phones. When we hear those words, instantly we all sigh. Because as much change as our industry has seen, we still get an overwhelming amount of calls. No need to sigh, though. That's where a good BDC comes in handy, doesn't it? I know the team at Trappe Connect personally, and these guys get it. And they can help you build your service BDC, or use their team to catch the calls you miss with their well-trained team of agents. Even have them make outbound calls and set new appointments. Give Trappe Connect a call today. As they say, revenue doesn't leave a message at the beep. TrappeConnect.com. Dynatron Software is the premier provider of automotive fixed operations data analytics, business intelligence, and pricing optimization. We are changing the way that automotive dealerships look at their service department profitability and revenue streams. We are laser focused on profit management for fixed operations and uncovering hidden opportunities for our clients. I can tell you I have used and currently used Dynatron software personally, and it is amazing. Finding things that you would never uncover without it. DynatronSoftware.com. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Today, my guest is Christoph Trappe. And as you can see, or well, you can't see because it's on, it's no video, but he has his new book going live, which has it been released yet? Or is it coming out this month?
Yeah, so we're in soft launch, so to speak. Basically, on Amazon, it takes a little bit. You have to release it, and the pre-order, everything went live. So you can already buy it. I think the official launch is March 10th.
Excellent. All right, so for all the listeners who do not know who you are, why don't you give them a little background about who you are and how you've come to be somebody who can be the authority writing that book?
Well, I wouldn't call myself the authority, but I definitely have experience, doing live streams and podcasts. So let me kind of tell you my backstory. I grew up as a journalist, moved over into corporate communications. We started calling it content marketing. At least the piece I was focusing on, there's different pieces for corporate marketing, certainly. But we always try to stay in front of audiences and get in front of more audiences, right? It's getting harder and harder and harder. And so what's interesting about that is 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was a big proponent of, hey, we should do blog strategies, right? Through SEO and those kind of things. And blogging still works, but everybody now has a blog, and some of them are just horrible. And then we saw the trend of everybody's now doing a podcast. In fact, The Onion made a joke about how 250 million Americans are still looking for podcast guests. Which I find very hilarious. So, however, I think podcasting is a fantastic strategy for brands, for people, companies, etc. But what we have to think about is it's a new network for most companies, so you have to build a new following. And what I determined, I started doing that. My podcast, 100-some thousand downloads, but I determined that if I live stream my episodes, I can reach even more people, to different networks. So I do that now. I live stream my own podcast to LinkedIn, to Amazon, to YouTube, to Twitter. And, sometimes it takes off, sometimes it doesn't. The other day I had an Amazon Live episode on Amazon Live that had like 26,000, 25,000 viewers,
Wow.
So that's 26,000 additional listeners to your episode that you didn't have necessarily.
Sure.
So I'm not saying you're going to have that many listeners right away, but many companies spend years building their social networks. And this is just one way to really maximize that even today, even if you do a podcast. And let's be real, the first couple episodes, you're going to have like 20 downloads, and then you're going to think, is this really worth it? And I hear you. I know why you might think it's not. It's totally worth it, but you can kind of accelerate the growth a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you see a lot of companies missing the boat on the podcast opportunity? I mean, I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, but I don't think there's a lot of businesses taking advantage of having their own podcast to expand their own brand.
Yeah, I think some businesses are jumping in more and more, but you're absolutely correct. It's another thing. And sometimes I think business digital marketing strategies, they prioritize what drives results today, right
Yes.
now. And certainly it's really hard to do that with a podcast. It's really hard to do it with content marketing in general. It's kind of a long game. But here's the reality is, like, if you do it, at some point it will pay off, and it's long term. On an ad campaign, your ad campaign, the second you stop spending money, it stops, and that doesn't happen with all this stuff, because you can have a podcast and it's out there and it can still be found. Now it ranks. Now podcasts rank in search. So I think right now is definitely the time for brands to kind of step it up, hop in there. And here's the reality is, if you're already interviewing experts in your company for any digital marketing campaign, any campaign, whatever it might be, you already have the content. You just use that for the podcast interview. I mean, don't overthink it.
Yeah, I think that's probably an avenue that many people miss is being able to repurpose your content. Right, they're always trying to create something new, and a lot of times you have the content right there in front of you. It just maybe needs to be packaged a little bit differently to get it out to who needs to see it.
Yep, absolutely.
So, with your going live strategy, so are you interviewing guests and things when you're doing this too?
And I would highly recommend. I mean, first of all, sometimes you can do solo podcasts. I think that's fine, live streams. But it's hard to have a conversation just with yourself, So I encourage companies to have the internal experts, maybe external experts, maybe customers, maybe prospects. That's actually, I think James Carberry was one of the first ones who publicly talked about that strategy, maybe. And basically what you do is you invite prospects on the show. And so you get to know each other, right? So like Dave, you and I, we're just chit-chatting, right? We get to know each other. We've connected on social media. And so we know whether we like each other or not. Same thing when you do that with prospects. The problem when you invite prospects, they still have to say something interesting, because you got to build a good audience. Now, if it works, and even if you had a horrible episode, and they signed $100,000 deal or something, maybe you don't care. I probably wouldn't care either. But, at the end of the day, you kind of want to have a good show too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously people aren't gonna keep coming around to listen or watch something that's boring. So,
Right.
It doesn't always have to be super exciting or unbelievably enlightening, but it does have to have some substance to it every time you're going in there and talking about things. So one of the things in your bio is that you're a customer experience expert, and so I'd like to talk a little bit about coming from the fixed ops business, so dealership parts and service business. Customer experience is a large part of that. It's really just an afterthought that our clients are bringing cars with them. It's really about taking care of people. So what do you think really drives a good customer experience, or a great customer experience for that matter?
Fantastic question. So, of course, all those listings, other people said that about me, right? I didn't just come up with the numbers. And that one came from Ngati, I think that's how you pronounce it. And they put together a list. And, so I just want to mention that because sometimes people say, well, how do you know? I'm like, I got links, I didn't say it. Somebody else said it. So a good customer experience, really, you got to solve the customer's problem. I mean, that's really at the end of the day. If you can't solve my problem, why am I talking to you? And then certainly, there has to be some kind of exchange of value as well. If I'm not paying for it, am I really your customer? Now, of course, there are different ways of paying for services nowadays. Sometimes it's data on the web. Sometimes it's, buying services later or whatever. But you have to solve some kind of problem that the customer has. And, that definition is super wide ranging. Right. Did I have to buy an iPad Pro? Well, it solved some problems for me. Some of them are kind of, there may be more wants than needs, right? But in that case, it helped me do something. So it has to be easy. It has to be simple. It has to be enjoyable. It can't be a pain. So when you were talking about, I stopped going to a car shop because their service was horrible. And I felt like every time I went there, they were only after my money. I mean, it doesn't make any difference when I went. They always had something that was wrong every single time. And I find that unbelievable, quite frankly, on a newish car. And now the shop I go to now, they get business out of me too. Like sometimes I need new tires, whatever many miles that, I have to do that. I need an oil change. They find something else. But they don't constantly find new things, and sometimes they say, well, we think you should do that. But if you don't want to do it today, you can probably do it in whatever, 2,000 miles or whatever. Right. So it's that feeling, you have to kind of, I don't want to say you necessarily, love a brand or something like that, even though, what's funny, my day job is as content strategist at Vox Pop Me, which is a video platform for feedback from customers. And we did these video survey love letters for Valentine's Day. It was just what people were saying, dear Apple, I love you because of whatever, or Lululemon, which of course, as you might imagine, is not a brand I use personally. But, so there has to be some kind of connection too.
Yeah, that's. I mean, for us, it's all about building that trust factor there, and that's that's the big thing. Is you have to trust each other. I mean, obviously, we want to build trust for the client and us, but you have to have that trust factor going both ways, so that we know that whatever recommendations are being put out there, that the customer trusts us enough to know that those are real and are in their best interest. And like you said, at the second shop that you go to, they give you things and say, well, you don't need to do this right now. And that's the proper way to approach selling to someone is you have things that need to be done right now, and you have things that you can wait on, and you have things that you can never take care of, like a broken glove box. It doesn't matter, that the car will drive forever with that. So, you're never trying to, in any business, whether it's automotive or software or whatever it is, you're never trying to back a client into a corner where they have no choice, right? It's true,
but it's true, and and it affects business because, so for example, this car shop is also a car dealer, and we don't buy our cars there. Now, it's not like I buy a new car every year, but I do buy a car, I don't know, every 5 years, I don't know, something like that. So, we drive out of town to buy a car somewhere else. So they do lose business. I mean, it's, it's not the right feeling.
Right. Yeah. And so continuing down the customer service, customer experience road, are there certain things that any business, doesn't matter, car dealership or ice cream shop, are there certain things that are just innate in a customer experience that everybody should be looking to make sure they include?
Well, especially, I'm a content strategist. So from my perspective, the easiest thing that companies can do is create better content to find answers to questions. So for example, if I'm buying something, like I have this microphone in front of me here, why do I need to call the company if something doesn't work or I can't figure it out? Why does the company not have a video on their website explaining the most common issues people run into? Do you know what I mean? Or even a video saying, this is not the most complicated thing, quite frankly, but do you know what I mean? Conceptually speaking.
Yes.
And now I go to companies' websites, and there's so many sites that are just horrible. It's like it's as simple as the hours are wrong. Like, get your hours right on your website. Like, it's not that difficult. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, I don't care what your hours are, but get them updated. Right. But then also have valuable information on there, and the other thing that people have to remember is that potential customers now, they research stuff all the time. And, they look at your stuff, they look at other people's stuff, and a lot of it is actually on the vendors or the company's website. So if you don't have good content on there that people can make decisions on, it actually can hurt you. Now, here's the other thing. On the flip side, if your website says crap like, we're the state of the art, blah, 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 we're the best ever, and then it doesn't carry through
right
when I stop by, that's even worse.
Yes.
So your marketing and your customer service and experience, they have to align. Now, it's much easier, I get it, for marketing to, say those things, and then customer service not necessarily hold up their end of the bargain. But it's, it's a team sport. We have to make sure it holds up, because in the back end, so let's put it this way. If you have really good marketing and then the product or the customer experience is horrible, that's not good. You don't have any return customers. And that's really, I think, when you think about customer experience, it comes back to how do you bind people to you? How do you get them to buy more and come back? I'll give you an example. So I got this iPad Pro, which I do use for work, for editing and live streaming and all those different things. And you know what Apple did again? They came out with another plugin. Like, seriously, every new device they come up with has to have a new plugin. It's ridiculous. And I'm kind of upset about it, but just a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm fine. I'll survive. And you know what? I'm not going to switch from Apple because they did that to squeeze a couple more bucks out of me. So it's, do you see what I mean? I think that's where companies want to get people. And everybody, of course, says, can we be the next Apple? That's not the point. The point is you can totally do some of the experiences those companies use, to make your experience better as well.
Right. So I want to go back to something you just said there, which was using video to explain some common FAQs, if you will.
Yeah.
And so would you suggest, like, people make, so I'll stick in the automotive world for right now, that dealerships start to make videos for changing wiper blades, changing an air filter, changing a spare tire, that type of thing. And whether they publish that on YouTube and then carry it over to their website and have an area on their website where they have those FAQ videos that people can watch. Is that the type of content that you feel would help build up some more customer experience value?
So it's a little different when it comes to like automotive, right? Because what's the product? Your product is actually the service. So I think the way you sell that is you can definitely do some of those things. You could have, I wouldn't just do a video, but I would do a live stream of somebody saying, let me show you how to change your windshield wipers. And if you don't want to do it by yourself, come on down, And here's the reality of things. The people who are going to Google for how to change your windshield wipers, they're probably not your true customer for that specific thing anyways, right? Now, I'm your customer because I'm not going to Google it. I'm just going to come bring it by and do it and pay you the $17 or whatever it is to put it on. So some of those things, absolutely. And then always, bring that personality back, or you can answer questions. What do you do when your check engine light is on? Do you have to panic? Like, do I have to panic when that happens? I don't think so, right? It could be 100 different things.
Yep.
So, and then you talk through that process. But the reason why I love live is, here's the reason why. Because first of all, you can show your authenticity. Then second of all, you can just do it, and you're almost, when you're done going live, right? You don't have to edit. It's just like maybe a little bit. But if you're saying this was previously live streamed, nobody cares.
Right.
Just kind of figure out where you start. And I think that's kind of why people haven't done a lot of videos, because everybody thinks maybe not everybody, but a lot of people think they have to create these outrageously produced videos. Everything has to be perfect and fly in, and oh my goodness, I didn't powder up my bald head. You know what I mean? And nobody cares. Like, you don't want it to be bad. And here's the other thing with podcasts: since more companies are now doing podcasts, bad audio can really hurt you, right? Yes. So you want good audio, you want good quality, but you can shoot 4K with your iPhone,
right?
Like, like, what's your excuse? Like, you didn't have your iPhone?
Yeah, that's and I think that's a great point there. So when you do go live, and when it is put up there as previously live, I think you're right. People are certainly more forgiving about the video. I think 2020 kind of made people a little more forgiving about some content that's out there, because there were so many of the Zoom calls going on and things, and people using that content where they weren't previously, where it isn't highly edited and things. So it's a great point. And certainly going live, I mean, you can get a little more of the personality in there, right? Because it's not a scripted thing. So, from the dealership side of it, service side, you get a chance to show the personality of the technician that's doing changing the wipers and things. That's something that a client doesn't often get to see, is who is actually working on their vehicle, and that it's an actual person who has a personality, and that makes more of that connection with the customer.
Right. And the other thing is, most people are not very good at reading scripts. So it's just something to think about. Even when I write scripts for a project or whatever, or back in the day at United Way, we had these big events and we wrote scripts. And the scripts weren't meant to be read out loud, like they were a guidance. Roughly say this sentence, roughly talk about that. And most people, I mean, I worked with voiceover actors before and on-camera talent, and they were good at reading scripts, but they did it all the time, right? Like a TV anchor, for example. So I think for most people out there, reading scripts does not make you sound very very human for the most part. There's some exceptions, and you can learn it. But I'm just telling you, just because you have a script doesn't make it any better by default. It can, but if you've never done it before, just talk. Like you and I are talking, we're not running out of stuff to talk about, and just show your authenticity and be real. Don't be a jerk, obviously, but that's if people like you and people like what everybody stands for, it can lead to business and keep business. Right.
I think that's a great point to gaining more businesses. Don't be a jerk.
Right.
That's that should probably be up there close to number one of things not to do. So with your content marketing and things, what is the process? There's a lot of people in fixed operations who are not marketing people, but yet they are asked to create marketing campaigns and things. What are some steps you could give them to try and make that a little bit easier for them?
Yeah. So the first thing is people really have to move away from thinking they know all the answers. And I know that's hard, but think of it this way. So you got an executive or whatever manager coming over and saying, I need a trifold brochure. Just making that up because it's kind of funny. Trifold brochure, right? But some people still do that. and then whoever goes out and they take the order, and now they go create that trifold brochure. But they didn't actually need a trifold brochure. But since they ordered a trifold brochure, that's what they got.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it this way: if I go to McDonald's and I know what I want, I'll order it, right? But if I were to go and say, hey, I actually want something like this, what do you have? I mean, whoever does that at McDonald's,
right.
But do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm in the mood for something else, we all know what they have. And I think that's the problem when it comes to some of those marketing drive-through drop-off orders for things.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. How do we get there? What can we do? And you might be surprised what the answers are. I'll give you an example. When it comes to these live streams, I take a live stream, I use it as a podcast, I take video snippets for other things, I mean, it's endless of what I can use it for. I could take a quote, put it on a flyer if I needed a flyer,
Mm-hmm.
So figure out, instead of doing everything in a silo, how do you integrate it? How do you put it all together? And that's, I would really recommend that. You certainly probably need some kind of marketing leader who has experience in that. I still find it interesting sometimes, when a salesperson, I have plenty of people in my life and over the years that are sales people, and they're fantastic, but they're not necessarily marketers, right? And all of a sudden, sales is now in charge of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, you have marketing, and it's there. I mean, even marketing has like 15 different subcategories or whatever it might be. So it's just something to keep in mind. How do you collaborate? How do you get what you actually want, not what you think you want?
Yeah, that's a valid point. How do you get what you actually want and not what you think you want? And that from the service side of the business, that is what happens all the time. The people who are service managers, service directors, are also asked to be marketing managers for their departments, to drive more traffic into their service drives, to come up with coupons or marketing that is going to drive that traffic in, and it is not their area of expertise, and just figuring out where to start with that can be very, very difficult for people to even know where to jump in to even put themselves in the race to be able to create a marketing piece for that dealership.
See, and the problem with that too is, if you only do one thing at a time, one campaign, or one-offs, as some people call them, the success, is it going to work? Like it's like you put all your bets on one horse. Mm-hmm. But when you do a multi-stream approach, it's like you're betting on all the horses.
Right.
So no matter who wins, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You might not win as much, but so that's just something to keep in mind. That's kind of what I'm trying to accomplish with the whole going live concept. Is you do it once, you use it everywhere, and you kind of go from there. And I'm really, like earlier I had an Amazon Live, and it didn't perform very well. The other day I had one that performed really well. Then LinkedIn is performing well. Then all of a sudden the website is performing well. So it's like you're betting on more horses than just one in the same race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that approach because you've obviously you have a bunch of different places where your clients may show up, that they can see that, and then you're taking that and churning it back, and using it again. As you said, you can take that live stream, put it out as a podcast. You can take that live stream and put it up to answer a question for something. You can take a quote out of it and use it somewhere. And depending on who you've had on that live stream, if it's a customer, now you've got quotes from customer testimonials, potentially, that you could use from that piece of content. And it does create a ton of different places, or pieces of content that you can use in different places where you may have traditionally been creating 15 different pieces of content to put out there, and now you've created one and made it work in all those other different areas.
Exactly. Yep.
It is a terrific strategy, and certainly one that can help people in a lot of spaces, but from my space in the dealership world, it can help people who are constantly trying to come up with content to put out there, an easy way to create multiple pieces of content in a very short time period.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Christoph, this has been an excellent conversation with some great pieces of information that I know people are going to be able to put to use immediately. Where can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, please connect on authenticstorytelling.net. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Fair warning, don't send me a message saying you're human and I'm human. You want to connect. Just say you heard me on Dave's show and you want to connect. I always appreciate that. Twitter, C-Trap, and pretty easy to Google. But hope to hear from you. Hope you connect. And of course, hopefully you'll check out the book. It's available now.
All right. On Amazon? Is that where they should go to?
Amazon is fine, or authenticstorytelling.net.
Oh, right on the website also. Excellent. All right. We'll make sure we get all that linked up into the show notes also. Again, thank you for joining us. Some great information that people will be able to put to use immediately.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate you.
Great. Take care. Another great episode in the books. Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast on all your favorite podcast players. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts to help us expand our reach. If you found value in this, and we know you did, please share with a couple of friends. Help us reach more people. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.